Hello, it's me, Mr. Kenneth. In this video, I have the book Harold's Purple Crayon Treasury. Today we're going to be reading the last story in this, which is called Harold's ABC. This story was written by Crockett Johnson, just like all the others. Harold decided one evening to take a trip through the alphabet, from A to Z. To go on any kind of trip, he had to leave home. He started with A for attic, and he left his yard, taking his purple crayon and the moon along. To get very far, he was going to need a lot of words. B is for books. He could find plenty of words in a big pile of books. He was clearly ready for anything. Harold was always ready for something to eat, and C is for cake. He took a large cut of the cake and ate it as he continued on his way. The cake made him thirsty, and he wanted a drink. Luckily, D is for drink. He drank right out of the dipper. He was eager to get on with his excursion. He visited an enormous edifice, the tallest building in the world. He went up and up, floor after floor, etc., etc. E is for etc. Elevators take people up and down in big buildings, but Harold didn't like them. They made his stomach feel funny. He went up over 100 stories in his own way. At the very top, Harold was surprised to see something higher up than he was. It was only the next letter of the alphabet, flying from the roof. F is for flag. Now he had to get down. G is for giant. One happened to be passing by. Giants generally aren't so genial, but this one grinned when Harold landed on him. Harold explained he was in a hurry. The giant gently set him on the ground. He hastened along. H is for horse. One way to go fast is on horseback. Unfortunately, the horse didn't turn out to look much like a real horse. It made a rather good rocking horse, but a rocking horse doesn't go anywhere. Harold had to think of some other way to speed up his trip. I is for idea. He went to work on the next letter with his purple crayon. J is for jet. In a jiffy, he had a speedy little jet plane ready to take off. Harold hopped into it and rocketed away. It overtook the next letter in no time. Harold jumped out and grabbed on, thinking hard of a word for it. K is for kite, flying on a string. Harold began to climb down the string. Suddenly, a quicker way of getting down struck Harold. L is for lightning. Harold held tight to the purple crayon, going down like a streak. He landed on a pair of tall peaks, high and lonely. M is for mountain. He looked for somebody to ask where the mountains were. N is for nobody. Off in the sky, he saw an orbiting object. It looked like a strange planet. O is for hours. Our Earth. The mountains were on the rim of the moon. He looked over the edge at the side of the moon he had never even seen. Down below him was the next letter of the alphabet. Taking aim, he jumped. P is for parachute, he said, as he plunged to the plane on the far side of the moon. And suddenly, he wondered how he could get back over the ridge of the mountains. He would have to ask the man in the moon, or the king, or whoever was in charge. Q is for queen. She was Urania, queen of the sky, she told Harold, who bowed. Only King Uranus could help Harold get home, she said, but the king was away. Far away, the queen said, across the land and sea. Harold decided to ride there. R is for rhinoceros, roaming both land and water. It was a slow, rough ride. And when Harold reached the sea, the next letter, he had a better idea. S is for sea serpent. Harold sailed across the moon at a smooth, swift speed. He landed far away, looking for the king of the sky who was supposed to be there. T is for telescope. He set it up on a tripod. All he saw through it was another letter. The queen had mentioned the king's name. Harold remembered it. U is for Uranus. He drew the king's attention and asked how to get across the moon mountains. King Uranus, in his ermine robe, stood silent and majestic, considering the question. Then, with a kingly gesture, he waved Harold forward and onward. Harold trudged along toward another letter, away off in the distance. V was for valley. He could go through it to the other side of the moon, near the earth. 4 more letters, and he knew he would be through the whole alphabet. But the biggest letter of all barred his way. He tried to think of a word for it quickly. W is for witch, wicked and waiting, and it looked as though he would never get through. Harold nearly gave up, but then he saw the next letter, right nearby. X is for Xing out. Harold had to X things out before, lots of times. It worked this time, too. Witches are very susceptible to such treatment. He had made so many marks that it was hard to get through them, but Harold managed. Magically, he found himself in a familiar garden, while the moon high in the sky. Y is for yard, his own yard. He was home, and there was 1 letter left. In his bedroom, as he dozed off, he made up a word. Z is for zizzle, or little snore. The end. That was all 5 stories in the Harold's Purple Crown Treasury book. I'm so glad you got to listen to them with me. I'm going to tell you one more time how to sign the word purple. Looks like this, purple. Make the letter P with your fingers, and you wave it in front of you. Thank you for listening to all of these stories with me. I'll see you next time.